I have 60.
I have 17.
Okay, so, you ready?
Yep.
It's going?
Yeah.
So first of all, make sure that you sign in on the sheet coming around. It should just have two columns, one that says period 6, one that says period 7. Obviously, make sure that you sign in the right location. For some of you also, I know Drew gave me the flash drive, so I'm transferring the notes onto her flash drive now. If anybody else has a flash drive and they want to hang out for a minute afterwards, I can do that as well for you. Regarding the test, it's on 3 chapters. Chapter 15, which is on stress. Chapter 16, which is on disorders. And Chapter 17, which is on therapy. So, in terms of the structure and how the test is set up, we've got the first, 30 questions or so. It's actually exactly 30 questions. First 30 questions are multiple choice, just standard, little bit of everything. A few of these are scenarios. So quite a few of them are scenarios where you have to apply something that we've talked about in class to a scenario that I have set up. So that's the first 30 questions. A lot of that, it comes from chapter 15, related to stress. Because the next part of the test is identification. One of the identification sections is on disorders, and then the other one is on therapy. So the pink table that we did in class, where you identified the therapy, the pros and cons, different types, basically you're going to get A through F, and then it'll say psychoanalytical, humanistic, cognitive, etc. And then it'll give you a statement, something like, believes that thinking processes are the main thing to be solved. And you would match that with what? Which approach believes thinking processes should be focused on? Cognitive, right? Or it might give you an example of a type of therapy, and you have to identify which type or which category that fits with. So for example, if it was to say antipsychotics, which type does that fit with?
All of them.
Biological for the approach. Yeah, biological. If I were to say anything with conditioning, what does that relate to? Behavioral. So if you know the contemporary approaches and can apply those and relate them to therapy, logically it makes sense. So then the other section, the identification section on disorders, it gives you the major categories of disorders, and then you have to identify what disorder is related to that category of disorder. Okay? That's the other section. So let me give you a few examples, and then I'll jump back into the other part of the test and talk about some stuff with stress. So, oh man, how do I even word this without... Okay, general type of disorder where you have physical symptoms with no clear physical cause. Somatoform disorder. There's 2 types of somatoform disorders in general. What are those? Yeah, conversion and hypochondriasis or hypochondria. Good. Okay, so the test might just say hypochondria, and then you'd have to match that to somatoform. Or it might say bipolar, and you'd have to match bipolar to what? Mood disorder. Yep. It might say multiple personality disorder, and you have to match that to dissociative disorders. Good. That's a reminder that there's a retirement party for Principal Barnum in the Commons today.
Today?
Yeah.
Right now?
Okay. So, do you see how that section's going to work? You'll have those main categories of disorders, and then you have to identify what they fit with. Good. So let's talk about a few things that we talked about with stress then. We talked about something called the conflict situations. Conflict situations. There's 4 different types of conflict situations. We actually wrote them on the board and we discussed them in detail as a class. Somebody give me one example of a conflict situation. What? Avoidance, avoidance. Amr, give me another example.
Approach.
Approach. Riyadh, another example.
Avoidance approach.
Approach avoidance,
Approach
yeah.
this one.
Okay. Approach is usually stated first. Okay, and then Mason, the last one.
Double approach avoidance.
Double approach avoidance, okay? So be able to identify some scenarios. If I give you a scenario, and then you have to identify what it is. So approach is where you have two options, and both options are really good. So I call on the radio station, they're like, you're caller number 9. You win a free ticket to your choice of this movie that you want to see or that movie that you want to see. It's free. You don't have anything that night. You're going to get free food. I mean, it's either way is really good. You're trying to decide between two movies that you think you really would like. That's approach. Okay, give me an example of something that would fit with avoidance.
Having to study for anatomy or having to study for a calculus test that you have going on.
Okay, so you have two classes that you really hate that are both really hard. I don't know if that's the case in anatomy and calculus that you use, but whatever. Two classes that are really hard, you don't like them. You know you have a test tomorrow, you have to study, you only have enough time to study for one, really? Which one are you going to study for? You don't really want to do either of those things, but you know you have to. Avoidance. You did something really bad. Your options are to tell somebody about it and like have them hate you and be mad at you for a long time and maybe punch you or whatever. Or to not tell them about it and feel so guilty that you are going to barf all the time. Either way bad. Is the camera working still?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say the battery thing came on,
Okay.
so it might die.
When it dies, there's extra batteries in there. We'll replace them real quick. That's
Okay.
fine. Okay, so if it's approach avoidance, what's that scenario? Yes or no scenario. So, are you going to go to the dance or not? Are you going to go to work or not? Are you going to apply for that job or not? Give me an example then of the last one, double approach avoidance.
Eat a chocolate cake and savor it, or and get fat, or do you not eat it and miss the taste and stay skinny?
The way you described it, that was a yes or no scenario, so I probably would call that approach avoidance, but because it's either eat it or not.
Yeah.
But I get where you're coming from. So how about this? Let's phrase it this way. You walk into the lunchroom. It's Teachers Appreciation Week this week. Sometimes we have stuff. Today we had cupcakes. Okay? Cupcakes. And where are they at? And there's a teacher in my department that's like trying to cut back on carbs. So much so that yesterday was Mr. Jonas's birthday. And Denise, his wife, always gets karma rolls from Sandy's Donuts on Jim Jonas's birthday. So this person in my department was literally smelling the caramel rolls. Like I opened the door and the cover's open. So didn't eat one, but just smelling it, okay? So in that issue with the chocolate cake, if it was like I walk in the teacher's lounge, I see chocolate cake, and then I see a big thing of like apples or something. And I'm trying to choose which one. You know, chocolate cakes is worse for you. I really don't like chocolate, so I would choose the apples, but if I really like chocolate, maybe I would choose the chocolate, I don't know. Okay? So you're weighing the pros and cons of either one. So that's an example of double approach avoidance. Okay, what's the term for the physiological response that people go through when they experience stress? No, it's more specific than
Anxiety.
stress reaction. It's called the blank blank syndrome.
What?
There's a graph in it. Alarm, resistance, exhaustion are the 3 stages. So that's part of the response. General adaptation syndrome. Okay? So the first stage of that is reaction. You hear a loud noise, heart rate rises. Okay, then there's some resistance to it. If that stress persists for a long period of time, then you'll eventually reach exhaustion. Is it cutting my head off or something?
Yeah, the feet keep falling.
Okay.
So yeah, no, it was just more like.
I talk
funny.
loud enough; they'll still be able to
Well,
hear me if they can't. see
yeah,
me.
it was just funny. I was showing Hannah.
What's the thing called? General what?
General adaptation syndrome.
What was the first thing again?
Alarm, resistance, exhaustion. Yep. Okay, fight or flight is going to come in what stage?
Alarm.
Right away, yeah. Okay? When you hear a loud noise and you're like, does this affect me or not? What type of a stress appraisal is that called?
Primary?
Primary. Then when you're deciding, does this affect me, or, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. I did that last night when I was eating,
Oh, yeah.
and it was like, because I didn't want to sneeze like all over the food and stuff, so I generally do this when I sneeze, and I just didn't think. Salad. I'm like picking salad. It was so bad. It was nasty. Yeah. So anyways, random
for
tidbit
sharing.
for you guys. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So, in that instance now, if you decide then, okay, here's what I'm going to do to handle that stress, what type of appraisal is that? Secondary. Thank you. Okay. If you experience stress and it's positive, what type of stress is that? Okay, how about negative?
It's called what? Eustress?
Distress.
Distress.
Distress. Positive eustress, negative distress. What is the difference between stress and a stress reaction?
Stress is the producing event or situation, and the reaction of the body responds to a stressor. Did I say it again?
You said it wrong right away, actually. Yeah.
Oh,
What's the thing that produces
Oh.
stress is called what?
I already asked the definition for stressor. So it's
A stressor is the thing that produces stress. A stress reaction is what?
body's response to
Your body's response to it. Stress is
Person's reaction.
the broad definition, a person's reaction to your inability to cope with tense events or situations.
What's it like an example of like positive stress?
Well, a lot of this has to do with how the person responds to it. So, for example, you know that you're going to graduate soon, and your mom's been like, you need to get ready for the grad party, you need to get ready for this, that, whatever. Okay? So then you respond and you actually clean your room and do stuff. That pressure from your mom caused you to actually respond and decide to clean your room and get ready for the grad party and all that. It depends on your response. So in that instance, could be eustress. Your mom stresses you a lot, tells you you need to clean your room, whatever, and you like go out and party because you're so stressed about it and get a DUI. Distress. So a lot of it has to do with how you handle it, how you respond to it.
That's something.
Because what's the definition of stress again? A person's reaction, that's the first part. What are they reacting to? To his or her inability to cope with a certain tense event or situation. If your mom's like, clean your room, clean your room, clean your room, you're like, leave me alone, Mom, and you finally clean your room, hopefully your mom quits bothering you about cleaning your room, right? If you accomplish something good, eustress. If your mom's like, clean your room, clean your room, clean your room, and you're like, F you, Mom, I'm leaving, and you run away from home, distress. Okay?
Give shoes.
Do you see, Abby? Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Alright. What is one physiological response that somebody could have to an extended period of stress?
Increased blood pressure.
Blood pressure.
Okay, death, if bad enough and continued long enough, yep. Increased blood pressure, heart rate increase.
Aging.
Okay, being extra stressed can cause the telomeres to break down. Remember they talked about that in the stress video? So it literally will make you age faster. What else? The guy in the stress video with the beard, Dr. Robert Sapolsky, you know, the like perm and then the beard. There's a TED Talk with him where it's like way bigger. It's hilarious. It's like this big. And his beard's like this. So look it up. Like it's great. He's smart too. He's got a lot of good insights. Like I really like him. He's just kind of a unique personality.
What's his name?
Robert Sapolsky. So anyways, what else? He talked about it in the video. He listed off all these things. He's like, this is what you look like if you're A high-ranking person, and then here's what it looks like if you're stressed.
Blood vessels,
Yeah, blood vessels constrict, you get plaque buildup in your arteries,
you get a heart attack.
your immune system doesn't function as well, your reproductive system doesn't function as well. There's a whole bunch of consequences to that.
Is that kind of good though for your body?
What's that?
Or just like.
That your immune system's not working, or?
No, I was thinking more like reproductive because if you have a bunch of stress and then you have a kid, it's not really gonna help.
Yeah. Well, maybe that you could argue that that's like either evolved or created defense to that.
Well, yeah.
So, like, here's another example. People that are starved, like women especially, if they starve to a certain point, they'll stop ovulating, right? So they'll stop having their period, they'll stop releasing eggs. So that's a good thing probably because their body's not physically able to handle being pregnant at the time. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. So let's say you see something like really, really intense. It bothers you, it stresses you, whatever, and you try to just put it out of your mind. You just try to like totally put it out of your mind and only think about it from a logical perspective. What is that coping strategy called?
Intellectual. I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Intellectualization.
Yeah.
Yep, that's good. Intellectualization is correct. What's the difference between an obsession and a compulsion?
There's no compulsion of behavior.
Can you say it a little bit louder for people?
Obsession is the thinking, and compulsion is behavior.
Obsession is the thinking, compulsion is the behavior. So let me give you a scenario and you'll tell me which it is. Washing your hands a lot. Compulsion. Buying a bunch of ammunition and door locks. Compulsions. That's not me. I have maybe...
Well, I was thinking more like the door locks.
Yeah, the door locks.
Yeah.
The ammunition story. I have maybe, I don't know, 500 rounds of ammo in my house. It's really not that many. So, like, I'm sure if you hunt or whatever your parents do, you have more ammo than that probably in your house. So, okay. If you are thinking about getting sick all the time. Obsession. Okay, so you understand the difference. That's pretty straightforward. What's the difference between type A and type B personalities?
Type A is like a more stressed person.
Yeah, wants things a certain way, can't tolerate deviations from their plans, not as patient, probably not as relaxed overall. Okay, good. What's the key hallmark of a dissociative disorder?
Memory loss.
Well, the term itself, if you know what the term means, it tells you what the key hallmark is. To dissociate is to kind of like break away or to to like change who you are. So the key hallmark in dissociative disorders, yeah, there's a lot of loss in memory, but what else is there a loss of? Identity is correct. Yep. So there's three that we talked about in class. Which one is the one where you run away? Yeah, dissociative fugue. So the way I remember that is like the fight or flight response, flee and fugue. So maybe that'll work for you, I don't know. Okay, next one. If you take a whole bunch of caffeine and you need more and more of it to help you get awake, what is that an example of?
Tolerance.
It's an example of developing a tolerance. You quit taking the caffeine, you start getting headaches. What physiologically is happening to you? Withdrawal. Good. So the tendency with drugs is the more and more you take, the longer you take drugs, the more of it you need for it to affect you in the same way. What's the name of the book that's used to diagnose and suggest treatment options for mental disorders? The DSM. Which version are they on now? The 5th one. Good. What type of disorders are generally considered the most severe? Schizophrenia, exactly. Good. Okay, what's the difference now between a hallucination and a delusion, Logan? Hallucination and a delusion.
A delusion is a false belief that a person maintains in the face of contrary evidence, and a hallucination is there's like no direct cause, and you see things or people.
Okay, so hallucinations is you see something that's there, you hear something that's there, but it's not really there, right? A delusion is a false belief you have. So let me give you some examples. Again, identify as a hallucination or a delusion. I don't even know what some of the examples I think of are like, I don't know if I'll use this one, but I'll just go ahead.
I think about
So that's fine. I have a good relationship with Amr. He knows I don't say this to try to make him feel bad or whatever, but say Amr comes in and he's like, yeah, Carly and I are going to go to prom together next year. He's like, absolutely believe it. Okay? What is that? Could be. Okay? So, I mean, she went to prom with somebody else in a relationship. He's like, I know it's going to happen. Probably a delusion. Okay? So, you turn a little red, not really.
I didn't expect that one.
A little bit. Okay? I was like, I don't know if I should use it, but. Okay, next one. Let's say you constantly hear, like, a clown laughing. Hallucination. That'd be pretty creepy, right? Clown laughing all the time. Very good. Okay. Let's say that I believe that I'm going to be elected in the House of Representatives in the next election cycle. Delusion. Not declared as a candidate, never ran for public office before. I'm going to be elected. I absolutely believe it. Yeah, I would agree. Okay? I think you guys understand the difference. What is the term for, or actually let me ask it this way. What was the example that I gave to you about how disorders happen? Like the thing that I cited as probably the most logical explanation for how disorders occur.
Diathesis stress model.
Diathesis stress model. Can you explain that, Riyadh?
It's genetics and like what happens to you when you're genetically predisposed to something, but then an action triggers that. So you can go your whole life and not get mentally ill. Nothing bad happens to you, but something bad has to happen to trigger it.
Yep. So basically the diathesis stress model holds that people have a genetic predisposition to developing a disorder, but they have to experience a certain amount of stress for that disorder to occur, for it to unlock. So would hardcore biological theorists agree with that?
No.
No. Why?
Environment has something to do with it.
Yeah, in the diathesis stress model, the environment has something to do with it. Would people that are hardcore on the nurture side agree with that?
No.
No, because the diathesis stress model holds that biology plays a role as well. So really, the diathesis stress model is a nature and nurture theory. It takes both of those. Okay. You remember I showed you a list of, it's in the text also, it gives you a list of the most stressful events that people could experience in life. There's a big table, and it cites some of the research. What was the most stressful thing?
It's like death.
Yeah, death of a spouse. Number 2, I think, is divorce or separation.
No, I think that was 4. You said it was probably number 2 now. Or wait, maybe. Oh no, it was 2. It was 2.
I'm pretty sure it was 2.
Yeah.
Death of a child or close family
Isn't it
member is like number 4.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyways, the events that are most stressful have to do with loss of relationships. Good. Okay. If I were to be like, Hannah, you look like you're tired, have some of this drink, it'll make you be more awake. Do you want some? It's whey protein actually. It's whey protein and water.
I'm good.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't taste the best. So anyways, I give you this, and then you drink it, and then you feel more awake. There's no caffeine or anything in here to my knowledge that would make you feel more awake, other than the calories you would get from it, I guess. But you still are like, oh yeah, I feel way better because of it. What did that just demonstrate? The placebo effect, exactly. Good? Okay. What's the term for a relatively minor day-to-day stressor that people experience?
It's a hassle.
It's a hassle. What's the term for like little things that make you feel better? Uplifts. Yep. So I see people smiling in class, they say hello to me. Uplifts. Somebody knocks on the door and tries to get a map. Okay? Hassle. I felt bad for her too. I didn't mean to be like, what did I say? See you later. Yeah.
You said it's so sarcastic.
See you later. I really wasn't that frustrated with her. But, okay. Some kid asked for a map. Not in my class, but boy, I've gone today. So we use the same stuff, so they were trying to get one. Couldn't find it. But anyways, so that would be a hassle. Okay. How about therapy? Which type of therapy is the most effective?
Eclectic.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter which approach as long as approached seriously. But yeah, using a little bit of whatever would be the most effective. Yeah, so
if we had a question like that, it would be eclectic. If
no.
that was an option. No?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm not even going to tell you because to answer it would be to answer the question. But just know, if you understand again that a variety of different approaches can be effective, depending on if people approach them seriously and follow through with what the doctor says, they can all work, okay? Think of it this way. If you have high blood pressure, heart disease, whatever, and the doctor's like, we need you to treat this, it's going to be most effective if you do a variety of things, correct? But if you do anything, any of your doctor's recommendations, if you do any of those, provided the other things you were doing that were bad don't get worse, are you going to see improvements?
Sure.
Yeah, you might not see as many improvements as if you quit smoking and quit eating like a bunch of sodium and started exercising. But if you did like one of those or two of those, you are still going to see improvements. Therapy is kind of the same way. Okay. That is it. I talked about the two different types. So you've got the categories of disorders. Those are all listed in the text. Anxiety, somatoform, dissociative mood, schizophrenia, personality. You've got the types of therapy from the table. Did I tell you the different types of essay questions too?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. One of them's on stress from the video we watched in class with the guy that tranquilized the monkeys. Another one is from one of the TED Talks we watched. Another one, and then the other three are either about disorders or therapy. You're given quotes and you have to say if you agree or disagree with them and why. Okay? You gotta pick two of those. That's it. Have a good day. 10 minutes really for you.